I'm going to show you the highest potential Wonderkids from both potential ranges and potential ability in FM23. And I'm going to show you exactly what these players look like at their full potential too. Starting off with Warren Zaire-Emery, who sits in the 160 to 190 potential range. Now, potential range means that every single time that you load the game, he will be randomly assigned a potential between 160 and 190 out of 200. So numbers closer to 190 will mean that he is a better player. Fixed potential is what we're also going to look at in certain other players. That means every single time you load the game, that player will always have that potential. Back to Warren then, and as you can see, he plays in France for PSG. So you might find it a little bit difficult or expensive to pick him up at the start of the game at age 16, but I dare say they probably won't use him to his full potential, and you might be able to snap him up later on in his career and try and revive his career to reach his full potential. Some good attributes: he plays in that centre defensive midfielder role, and at the start of the game does look quite good. But how good does he look at his maximum? Well, here is Warren at his full potential of 190, and he looks incredible. There are so many things to like about this player, starting off with his physicals. A lot of acceleration and pace, agility and balance to get around the pitch, and his strength is decent too. Those mental attributes look like a veteran player who is world class, maybe even Ballon d'Or potential, but then you look at how good his technical abilities are, and he doesn't really have any weaknesses for that centre midfield slot. He can tackle, he can pass, he can mark, he can even dribble and go forward, and if he finds himself out wide, he can whip a ball in too. This guy is almost close to being a perfect centre midfielder. Over to the 17-year-olds of the group, and we have Youssoufa Moukoko. Now, we all know about how good this guy is at Borussia Dortmund, and at the start of the game, he does look very good. The only real weakness being that off the ball. He is rather expensive too, and I dare say it's probably difficult to get him away from Borussia Dortmund now that he doesn't have Erling Haaland in front of him. But when we crank him up to his full potential, whatever he's going to cost you, it's probably worth it. 20 acceleration and agility, 19 pace. That is scary numbers. If you stick, likes to beat the offside trap on his player traits, he is going to be deadly. Now, that off the ball is still lower, but he has high composure, high anticipation, 20 dribbling, and 20 finishing. Yet again, Moukoko is going to be a lethal weapon in your strike force. Got plenty more videos coming out, by the way. Make sure you press that subscribe button and stick around. Gavi is next in the 190 potential range. We all know about how good his ability is, breaking into the first team at Barcelona at such a young age of 16. Now 17, he still looks absolutely incredible, and his mentals already look like we've cranked him up to his maximum. He does have a high current ability to start off with, and as you've seen from a rebuild, I've already managed to pick him up at one point. He's a very talented player, but let's see what he's like at his maximum of 190. As we can see now, his mentals look even better. There's hardly any weakness whatsoever. And of course, his attacking prowess is what stands out in his technicals. That high dribbling and first touch, the good passing and technique. His physicals are still decent. Only jump and reach and strength is below 10. That does worry me slightly with that strength in the middle of the park, but because he's so agile and creative, he kind of whips around the pitch, kind of like what Iniesta used to for Barcelona. So he's a very good player to have in your attacking midfield. Sticking with the Barcelona contingent, we have Ansu Fati, age 19 and still in that 190 potential range. I've actually seen Ansu Fati go for quite cheap on this game because Barcelona seem to neglect him on that left-hand side or even up front. And he can even play on the right too. He does have really good starting attributes. Fantastic flair of 19, good off the ball, good pace, agility, and he can even dribble and finish. This without even setting him to his maximum. So let's take a look at how good he is then. And once we launch him to 190, we can see those physicals look even better. Agility of 19, that's scary when you have a fantastic dribbling ability that he has and that technique. He is going to be really deadly, cutting inside from the left on his right foot and having a shot when his finishing is 18, dribbling of 18, and even long shots of 16. He already has some fantastic player traits at the start of the game, so even giving him even more, maybe he likes to beat the offside trap because he has 18 off the ball, good anticipation and composure. With that pace, you could be looking at somebody who's going to be scoring you so many goals. Ansu Fati, still really good, and if you get a little bit further into your careers, Have a look, because sometimes Barcelona just neglect him completely. Now, unbelievably, Jude Bellingham is still on a potential range, despite us all knowing how good he actually is in real life, although his current ability is probably one of the highest out of this list. Of course, he plays for Borussia Dortmund, and of course, he is just aged 18 at the start of the game, which is really impressive, and he is still absolutely incredible. He even has really good player traits to start off with, gets into the opposition area from centre midfield, and if he has that 13 finishing, 15 composure, you're going to find that if you play him in kind of like a centre attacking midfielder role or a box-to-box, he's going to be in the box for cutbacks and stuff, so you might pick up quite a lot of goals. But this is how good he is without cranking him to 190. So let's take a look at when he is. Now, he's arguably going to be one of the most sought-after midfielders in the game, so to pick him up, you might have to be one of the elite clubs, and you might have to have a lot of money chucked at him. But Jude Bellingham is going to be one of, if not the best centre midfielders on the game in about 5 years into the future. Absolutely incredible everywhere you look. You could play him up front if you wanted to. He is just that good. But I think play him in a box-to-box midfielder or a centre attacking midfielder. He is going to be so good for you going forward, and he can even defend. He even has 15 for tackling, fantastic aggression, defensive positioning's a 12. It's not even that bad there, and he can even play centre defensive midfielder should you really want to. I think I used him in a Segundo Volante, and he was amazing at that. There's very little that Jude Bellingham cannot do. Now, before we take a look at the one and only player who is in the 200 potential range, we're going to take a look at some fixed potentials. And like I say, every single time you load the game, these potentials aren't random. They're going to have the exact same potential every single time. So they might be slightly lower than some of the ones that you have seen, but they are guaranteed to be this potential every single time. Let's take a look at the first one. It's Harvey Elliott from Liverpool. Now, he does have a very good starting current ability in the 140s, but if you manage to progress him and develop him properly, as you should, Harvey Elliott can turn into an absolute beast. But starting off, as we can see, really good technical attributes, probably the highlight that he has here, and some really good player traits as well. That mental attributes, I'm actually surprised of how good they are. There are a few weaknesses, of course, in concentration, decision-making, only being a 13, but for somebody who's only 19 years of age, I think you can kind of forgive him. Physically is where he needs to develop the most, so let's see if he maxes out those physicals. So he has a 170 potential, and if he does reach that, yeah, I think you can see he is going to be one of the world's best. And I think the best thing about him is that he can play in multiple positions in midfield, including naturally as a centre midfielder or on that right hand side. So if you do manage to pick him up or you are using him for Liverpool, you kind of have a player who can replace Salah, who can replace Jordan Henderson. Whoever you really want him to replace, he can do the job because he is really good on the ball, that 18 passing, technique and vision. But not only that, he has that fantastic first touch and dribbling ability, crossing as well, cutting in on his left foot. But look at those mental attributes. The work rate, teamwork, composure, it's unbelievable. Everything about him looks fantastic. Just some physicals that I would like to have seen a little bit higher, like the natural fitness, maybe the strength. But other than that, Harvey Elliott looks amazing. One of my favourite Wonderkids from previous renditions of Football Manager is Yeremy Pino, and here he is once again with a potential of 175 if he does reach that, of course. Now, I do say that because you need to nurture these players to reach those full potentials. Now, Yeremy Pino, starting off with, can play on the left or right naturally, and he can even do a job for you up front or in that centre attack in midfield. He is right-footed, but playing him on both sides, you can do a job there. He has great dribbling ability and fantastic technique with flair, and those physicals are already decent. He's aged 19, but let's take a look at him when he's set to his maximum. He has like one of the biggest jump ups, I think, in terms of quality. There's hardly any attributes. In fact, there's only one attribute that isn't double figures, and that's jump and reach. And you're not really using him for a jump and reach when you're using him on either flank. Maybe up front, but I think he's definitely better playing from the wings, and you can see that from his dribbling ability, his first touch, his passing and his crossing. He also has fantastic physicals like we've already highlighted before we cranked him up to his maximum, and those mentals, there are a lot of 15s there that I really like. The only weakness I'm gonna say there is off the ball. Maybe it's just this version of him set to his maximum. Maybe when you're using him, his off the ball will be slightly better. I don't know whether that's a fixed attribute because that can change, but that 11 off the ball is worrying for me. That's the only downside though. No shock, we're going back to Barcelona. Barcelona's squad, and we have Pedri on the 176 potential, so he's one higher than Zaire-Emery Pino, but I think his current ability starts him slightly higher. Again, he's 19 years of age, and once again, he already looks like he is a world-class player. That passing technique, that centre attacking midfield slot for Barcelona is very safe, isn't it? We've already seen two people who can play there, even a third if you put Ansu Fati in there and trained him well, but this guy is probably the best of the bunch for that role. He already has 18 vision, and he's only 19 years of age, but let's take a look at him when he's set to his maximum. An absolutely disgusting talent, I think we can all agree. There's a lot of 18s, including that dribbling, first touch and passing technique. 19 for vision. This guy can pick out a pass, and he also has a player trait of tries killer balls often, so you're going to find him trying to slot through your strikers or your wingers quite often, and he's probably going to pick up a fair amount of assists. So definitely Pedri is somebody, if you can get your hands on that shadow striker role, that attacking playmaker in that centre attack midfield role, that's your guy. Arsenal fans are going to be buzzing because Bukayo Saka makes the list. I think he's the oldest guy on this list as well, age 20. I capped it before anybody got to age 21. He has a potential of 177, again one higher than Pedri, but he already looks incredible, doesn't he? And the best thing I think about Bukayo Saka is the amount of positions that he can play. Depending on what formation you're using, you're going to be utilising Bukayo Saka if you have him in your team. Of course, his natural positions is from that attacking midfield right or attacking midfield left, especially on that right if you're cutting inside on his left foot because he's very deadly, and obviously can create quite a lot of opportunities for your strikers. But quite often this year in Football Manager, a lot of people are using wingbacks, and he's really good at that too. He's starting off with his current ability. I mean, he has that 10 for tackling. He's going to be a very attacking wingback, but he can still play the role really well. Mentally, he already looks fantastic. So let's take a look at him at 177. Now, this was not much of a huge jump because, like I say, he was already really good, but you can just see a few of those like 14s and 50s turn into 16s and 17s, especially in the mentals. And physically, he's going to be one of the best around because even jumping reach is 10, and he's 5'10" height, so he's not even going to be that bad in the air. Strength of 12, we can work with that, especially when he has pace and acceleration of 18 and 16, and his agility is 17 and balance of 17. He's going to be a little whippet on the wings and be very hard to bring down, especially when you take a look at some of his technical attributes as well. We all know how good he is. Bukayo Saka, well done, mate. You look class. There are two players with a potential ability of 180, and we're going to start off with Musiala, aged 19. I absolutely love this guy. Now, he can play naturally in that centre attack midfield role or on the left-hand side, but he can obviously play in a lot of different positions, including up front or centre mid should you need him to. His highlights, of course, are his physicals. He's 6 foot as well, which did surprise me. He's very slender. His mental attributes aren't as good as what we have seen in other players in this list, but the technicals I think will make up alongside his physicals, and he has some really good player traits. So let's take a look at him at 180. Now, even though he's at 180, I think a lot of other players did look slightly better than him, but I guess it's how FM value these attributes. His physicals are good, 16, we've seen better though. Mental attributes are, yes, phenomenal, but we have seen better on this list. Dribbling of 19 has been one of the highlights, and technique of 19. I think they might have done Musiala a little bit dirty here. What do you think? But as I say, joining Musiala on the 180 potential is Eduardo Camavinga. Formerly used to be one of the highest potential players on the game, but now with a fixed potential, so we can work with that. Starting off, he looks quite good. The one thing I would say about Camavinga is Real Madrid tend to neglect him because he's not as good current ability wise as their centre midfielders. So I've seen him transfer listed quite a lot, and even a transfer listed Camavinga at this level looks phenomenal. Let's take a look at him at 180. And this is what I mean by making it look like Musiala has been done dirty, because this is exactly the same potential and he looks miles better as a player. But I guess it's because he's more of a defensive midfielder than an attacking midfielder, because obviously we can see that 17 tackling, passing and marking of 16, but the mental attributes just look a step above what Musiala is. They look incredible on Camavinga, and even his physicals are still really good too. That stamina of 17, strength of 18 is going to be really hard to boss off the ball. He's got player traits of runs with the ball often. I'd give him some more as well, kind of like passing ones and gets forward, because he does have that really good ability to burst into the box with his physical prowess and manage to get back should you need to, and he has a defensive positioning and off the ball to be able to do both. So Camavinga Kamavinga is very much a box-to-box midfielder or a ball-winning midfielder who can play in that centre midfield or DM role, and you might be able to pick him up for a lot more attainable price than a lot of the other players on this list. The final player is the 200 potential range player, and that is Endrick. So, of course, we already know about him. He is the highest rated potential on the game if he reaches his maximum of 200. His lowest is still 170, which is obviously still higher than a lot of the players on this list, but he needs to get to that. Obviously, he is only 15 and he plays in Brazil, which means you have to wait until he is 18 before you can get him, but he is going to be the cheapest player on this list. So if you take a risk and you have a long-term save, he's going to be worth it. Player of 18 is the highlight here, but let's waste no time. Take a look at him at 200. A 200 current ability player, and he looks incredible. A lot of 18s, a lot of 19s there. Everywhere you look, this guy looks insane. I would definitely be playing him up front. I think having a very pacey player up front like Endrick at this level means you are going to score a ton of goals, especially if you give him beats the offside track, because he already has fantastic player traits already, but playing him on that right would not be a bad idea either. So what do you think? Do you think Endrick is definitely worth that 200 potential range? Does he look better than some of the other players? And what was your favorite player? Let me know down in the comment section. Make sure you're subscribed, and why not check out this video where we spent £500 million rebuilding Newcastle. It was a lot of fun.